Hi everybody, this is JPar and you are listening to the We Promise Nothing show. Today on the show, we got Da Boo,
Hey guys.
and that's it. So today on the show, everybody, we finally got around to it. We are going to be watching Deadpool and Wolverine. But for a moment here, everyone just take a moment to say hello to the Boo. Welcome the Boo back into the fold, back into the We Promise Nothing show. Let's get it going. How you feeling?
Feeling great, guys. It's been a little while there. Feels like it's been ages, but feel welcome back. And I'm actually anxious to get talking about one of my favorite films I was anxious for this summer. So kind of curious to see what your point of view is on this.
Oh yeah, for sure. I've been frothing at the mouth to review this. I actually saw it the first week due to complications. Couldn't get the review out, unfortunately. But it's been a beautiful summer. I hope everyone's enjoying their summer. And I feel a lot of people, felt like this has been like a return to the blockbuster, maybe a return to the theater a little bit. Something you could just, turn your brain off and maybe enjoy for once after all this crappiness that we've had to go through the last few years. But here we are reviewing Deadpool and Wolverine. And what do you feel? What do you feel about this? Did you feel like this was this a movie that you felt like, okay, it feels like we're getting back to theater movies, to big blockbuster kind of movies, or but don't spoil anything, but just a brief. What do you think?
Well, I'll admit, I know what you're saying. I mean, we're always looking for an excuse to spending our hard-earned money to go to the theater to see any of these films these days. So to answer your question, yes, this was one that I was genuinely excited to kind of go see. To be honest with you, I went 4 times to theater to go see it. So it was definitely one of the few movies, and I mean very few movies for the last while, that I was willing to go more than once. But yes, yeah, there's definitely a need for more of these types of films. Like you said, something you can just turn your brain off and not get too caught up in the details. However, there is quite a few details we'll get into in a little bit, though, regarding this one.
Oh, most definitely. So Deadpool and Wolverine, directed by Sean Levy, and of course, starring the talents of Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman. I don't. I could just go on and on and on. I don't even know if I should say anyone else because also I don't want to give anything right away. Give away right away. You know what I mean? But Emma Corrin's in this. Matthew McFadden. We could say that without really getting into any spoilers. And and a lot more people, and we'll get that when we start really getting into spoilers. And here's your chance now, folks. We will be getting into spoilers very soon, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, please go watch the movie. It's a great return to kind of Marvel blockbuster superhero flicks, and then come back and listen to the review and see if what you think lines up with what we think. That's what we like to do here. We like to talk about movies. That's what we always like to do around here. So right out the gate, let's go here. I mean, how excited were you to finally see Deadpool and Wolverine together on the screen?
Well, as I mentioned before, I was definitely... This is maybe one out of 2 whole movies this entire year I was genuinely excited to see. So it was more than happy to go to the theaters to go see it. Obviously, more than once, as I said. It's certainly a movie that actually carries quite a bit of weight, given the amount of expectations. I think a lot of us who have seen the first 2 films, and the universe that they've built around the character, because Deadpool, let's face it, is one of the few characters that can break the 4th wall in an appropriate fashion without it feeling out of place or awkward. And to have him seen alongside the devastation of the character Wolverine in the way they did it, with a very tongue-in-cheek kind of humor to match, and even to go even a step further, it shows just the unique relationship between the actors themselves. Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds are good friends to each other, and it reflects heavily on the way this entire film has been developed and the way their relationship shows on the big screen. So this was by far probably the one film this entire year I was really excited for the most.
And to touch upon that, you could see that in all the build-up to the movie, all the marketing. Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds, they showed up to many different things and did a lot of promotional work for this movie, and a lot of the times them being, as you said, being buddy and showing their friendship, and that's do you think that really helps sell this movie, because it is kind of a buddy flick?
Oh, absolutely. I think it even went one step further where Ryan's wife actually had her movie launch not long after the launch of Deadpool and Wolverine. I forget the name of her film, but it was genuinely marketed, given that they understood that Deadpool and Wolverine had come out just prior to it. So seeing Ryan and Hugh just pop up in interviews between Ryan's wife and I think one of the lead actors in her film as well, one of the love interests. I remember seeing an interview being interrupted by Ryan Reynolds, Hugh, and I think it was Ryan's mother, uh, who purposely interjected into the interview as the interviewers when it wasn't, quote unquote, scripted for them to be there. Uh, I won't get into too much detail on it, but it reminded me on how just what we just literally touched upon. The relationship between Ryan and Hugh is by far one of the most, genuine that I think you might see in anyone in their type of industry. It's nice to see, and it reflects easily in the way they portray themselves in characters, in front of the big screen too.
And of course, for those who don't know, Blake Lively is the wife of Ryan Reynolds. Let's get into like the nitty gritty of the characters, which is those lovable Marvel mutants. Two of the most famous Marvel mutants, probably two of the more popular X-Men characters. Definitely, they're both the Canadian X-Men. They're both the ones that have the Deadpool's not really an X-Men, but he's an X-Men character. But they're the Canadian characters. They both got a healing factor. They both come from the Weapon X project that was in Canada in the stories and the comics. Now, I know you, of course, we've covered this many times before. I mean, you are a comic book fan, but you're not like a huge fan back in the day. So do you remember seeing many comics of like Deadpool versus Wolverine?
Myself personally, no. So I'm always aware of the comics where these characters crossed over. Uh, so I was always vaguely aware of the fact that they kind of crossed paths at points. I do remember a lot of the visuals being quite brutal. I mean, especially with that you mentioned earlier, the healing factor that they both carry. It introduces the idea that you can get away with quite a bit of extreme violence on the page, and it's definitely been shown here in this film. So they were not shy about that. One of my favorite elements out of the entire film is that they didn't pull back their punches. They probably could have gone a little bit further, but I'm pretty sure with the whole Disney acquisition, I'm pretty sure they kind of had to pull back a little bit. Otherwise, there would have been complications.
I think they could have went further.
Oh, they definitely. There's always the need for more gratuitous of everything, right? Because I mean, let's face it; these are characters that are very much better suited for the adult audience if they're written appropriately.
Yes. Better for a rated R scenario. I mean, and that was kind of the thing. Like Wolverine always felt, even though like the X-Men movies are what they are. Let's be honest. You can go back and listen to the reviews. You'll know what I think about the X-Men movies. But, I mean, he always felt a little bit neutered in the fact that it's like, yeah, you could see him cutting people with the claws, but you could never see that blood, right? So, in that really kind of like, the violence kind of came out in, like, Logan. And, like, even Deadpool has to be violent as well. Just to kind of, to prove that, like, I have the comic where they fight for the first time. And apparently it's worth quite a bit now, which I didn't know. I looked it up not long ago. I was quite impressed. I'm like, oh, okay, that's awesome that I have that and it's worth that much. But it's like, it's a Wolverine comic and it's Deadpool. He's got Wolverine basically skewered on his two katanas. Like he's just holding his katanas up in an X kind of thing. And then it's Wolverine's like skewered on the katanas, basically. It's an amazing looking cover. It's a blue cover with like a lot of red and black. It's like very impressive looking and definitely the violence is there. I mean, when these two fight, like in that comic, like Deadpool basically tricks Wolverine into a move where he like kind of like lunges at him and then he puts his two katanas through him.
Right. Actually, you might know the answer to this because obviously I'm not familiar with the comics themselves, but when they fought next to one another or against each other even, what were the color of their outfits? Because they've both gone through some different iterations of comic book costumes, right? And the one in the movie obviously was they're both of their more typical color schemes. Deadpool being red with black eyes, and Wolverine had his classic yellow and blue. In the comics, however, did they not have moments where, for instance, Wolverine would have had his gray and black, color scheme similar to that?
No, not really. I think that's more of an X-Force thing.
Okay. Well, I think that's why I go there because
I think, and I'm having a hard time I'm trying to remember the page. It's like a 2-page spread, and I think Wolverine's wearing the yellow and the blue in that one. And if he's not, he's wearing the brown and the tan, because those were the two most famous colors of his.
Right. Yeah, that's true too. I just remember seeing Wolverine very much in that style of X-Force, and given that we know that Deadpool had his relationship to the X-Force team in a different way, especially with the live action movies recently.
Well, I'm pretty sure
I thought
that is him teaming with Deadpool. I'm pretty certain when he wears that outfit.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah,
so I thought maybe that.
But that's like way after all the original material. Like I don't even know where that I don't even know where that falls in the timeline of things. You know what I mean? It's like, because that's so like after the comics I collected.
I do remember seeing Wolverine next to another character that I don't want to kind of bring up because that'll be brought up later in spoilers. But I do remember seeing him next to another character where Wolverine was wearing his gray and black outfit, which reminded me of the color scheme that Deadpool had, where he was sporting the red and black. It was the gray and the black.
All right, let's get into this. We're getting into spoiler town, folks, and let's analyze this. I mean, we're probably you may as well sit tight, folks. Grab some popcorn, grab something to drink. This is probably gonna be a bit. We're gonna enjoy this, and I'm gonna tell you why we're gonna enjoy this, because in my opinion, it's been a while since I was able to sit down and really, really enjoy our Marvel movie. And finally, I don't know why it took them so damn long. So it only took 20 fucking years. As Deadpool says. But I don't know why it took so long for Marvel or MCU to put the X-Men in the movies. But also, I mean, I kind of have a sinking suspicion as to why someone might have halted the arrival of the X-Men until now. But I mean, there's a lot of jokes in here that Deadpool makes that definitely reflects the fans' feelings about the direction the MCU has been going in the last 4 years. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree. Yeah, I think we all have our speculations as to why. But I mean, the way Marvel is handling a lot of their content going into the following years, and their bigger plans of building story arcs in their own right, it's safe to say that they got their hands full with so much going on that they don't know where to start or where to end most of the time. And this was a long time coming. I think the X-Men in general need to be brought back appropriately into the MCU, and we knew it was coming. I think this might be that official starting point, as I would kind of see it.
And I'm going there, what was your least favorite thing that Marvel put out after Endgame? And you can name 2.
Oh, boy.
And you can name 3 if you want.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to get overly critical, I wasn't too fond of...
Let's go there. We gotta get critical. Let's be honest.
I know. It was because it's an oversaturation of these comic book movies, right? So I think we're getting to the point where we can be critical because we've seen the highs and the lows so much. And I just want to point one thing out there. I still enjoy them for what they are, but some of them are less enjoyed than others. And some of them even, unfortunately, leave a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth.
Oh, yes.
Because they missed a lot of their marks. They tried to do something different and unfortunately missed the mark quite a bit. One of them that stands out for me, honestly, was the Marvels. That was by far one of my least favorite. They had some interesting characters thrown all together that they could have done something quite unique. But I think one way of looking at it is not so much the heroes, but the villains that they go up against usually dictate on the quality of story arc. And in my opinion, the villain in that movie did not sell me on the idea that she was all powerful. Captain Marvel herself is like the equivalent, and we've discussed this before. She's the equivalent of Marvel's Superman. She's overpowering. She's got abilities to her that there's a reason why we got all hyped up when she showed up at the end of
She's inspired by Supergirl. Her name is like literally the same as hers.
Yeah. Well, yeah, to be literal about it, for sure, yeah. And I think having said that, your expectations of a character like Captain Marvel are extremely high. But then you go into this movie thinking that there was just not enough substance to this story itself. And I do blame mostly the not so much writing, even though writing can be it, but I just want to point out it was the villain that was the issue. And I don't want to get into details because we're not talking about that.
That's like a story for another time. Is there any that like stick out right now that was just like awful?
that were awful. Oh God, I think I'm at a point where I feel like I'm just oversaturated, as I mentioned earlier, with there's too many Marvel movies.
I
Um,
mean, it
I
could be
think
that, and I've heard a lot of people say that, the superhero fatigue, oversaturation. And I could agree with it, but I actually don't agree because, like you said, you still go and see these movies. So even if it's like kind of bad or good, you're still gonna go see them because you like superhero movies. But you'd rather go see a good superhero movie than a bad superhero movie. So I don't really know if there's like, I know a lot of people say it's superhero fatigue, but honestly, they just need to write better movies. In the last 40 years, I have not been impressed. After Endgame, I don't know what they were thinking. Maybe they thought they could take a little break from the high impact Avengers kind of style movies, but it's just a lot lacking. Like the multiverse saga, as Deadpool says in this, the multiverse, it's not working out. Like it's just like,
well,
you know.
and that's honestly where I will agree with you in some cases. I still will look forward to going to see them in theater. I mean, let's face it, the excuse to go to the theater, as I always put it, was give me a spectacle to see it on the big screen, whether it be in effects
Yeah, give me a spectacle,
or
exactly.
color or
Give me a
like
reason to
there's
pay
got to be a
money.
yeah, there's got to be a big reason exactly to cough up that hard-earned money to pay for these overpriced tickets these days. So having said that, that to me was the biggest one that I think that really left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth. I was kind of expecting something more out of Quantumania. That was one other one that I felt like I had a hard time with not long ago. That Ant-Man movie was dealing with an element that was quite out there, and maybe my expectations were a little too high. And at the same time, I know what we were expecting out of King the Conqueror. His
Right.
character was already overhyped to begin with. We already know that that's been kind of
And of course, he can't. They're not going with him anymore because he's got some
no.
legal issues.
Right,
So
and having said that, we know that that whole build-up was for nothing. Even though the
right,
character was nice to see on this big screen, I did love his character written in the Loki series, and this is where I wanted to touch upon probably my number three that I felt was a bit disappointing because my expectations were of a different kind. Can we talk about the mini-series, like the episodic series, or are we sticking to strictly movies here?
no. I'm talking about the series too, like all the
Oh,
Marvel
okay.
projects.
Yeah, because one other one that I really, in my mind, had a lot of hype was Echo. I don't know if you've seen Echo.
I
I
didn't
watched
even
it
watch it.
beginning to end. Um, I I gave it a chance. I tried to accept it for what it is, and I know they were trying to dabble in the street level of superhero fighting, and it was nice to see because it was refreshing. There was really no
Yeah, but isn't that what
superhero
Daredevil's
abilities.
for?
That's what I mean. Because it was the lack of Daredevil, with maybe a portion of him showing up on a brief note, the rest of it was based off of her, and her character could have been written in a slightly different way. So there was elements to it that I really appreciated because the hype over what we had seen her written out of the what was it, the Hawkeye series? Um, was it Hawkeye? Yeah, it was Hawkeye, where Echo was first
Oh
portrayed.
yeah, I forgot she was
And
in
her
that.
yeah, and she her backstory with Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin.
Right.
Right away, I was sold on the backstory of her character, but the moment you put her in her own story with not enough substance to it, it was there was a lot of a lot of fluff, a lot of dead air. It felt like they stretched it out way too long. They could have shortened that whole series down to maybe half the amount of episodes, and it would have been just right. Um, but in my opinion, that was probably one of my least favorite of the miniseries. Everything else actually was pretty reasonable, just because I understood that it took
But
time for character development and so on.
but do you remember like in the the
I'm sure I
first
missed
three
something.
waves building all the way up to Endgame, did anything disappoint you as much as those did?
I'm sure there was probably maybe to the point where I'd forgotten about it. Why? What would
I
be the
mean,
ones
do
that you
you
would?
think that like Thor or like maybe one of the Ant-Mans or maybe
Well,
Captain Marvel, but I mean
yeah. So I did mention the Marvels, and I did mention Quantumania, which is
yeah.
is it the
But I
third?
meant, I
The
meant
third?
beforehand. Did anything ever sink that low for you before we got to Endgame, like from the MCU? Like, what's the difference? Is there a difference, or
Are we saying the impact of the movies after
I'm
Endgame
just
had come and
saying,
gone?
like, for me myself, this is what I'm gonna say on this matter: is that
Mhm.
things building up to Infinity War and Endgame, like even if they put
Yep.
out a movie that I was like, that wasn't really that great, it still wasn't enough to just like kill the whole Marvel, vibe. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, well, that one wasn't as bad, but at least we got the end credit scene. They're building up to something else, and cool, we're going somewhere. Like, we're doing something. Like, all these projects and all this everything, it's just like, what are we doing? Like, what is this all for? It felt like nothing built into anything else. We weren't going anywhere. We're doing multiverse stuff. Like, they're killing off characters, and it doesn't matter because they can bring them back to life from another multiverse. Like, what is this crap?
Well, that I agree. The effect of doing the time travel thing, we've probably discussed about this before too, but the whole idea of using time travel in writing a story arc paints you out of a corner, and it gives them the full freedom to kind of do whatever they want.
I know,
and I think that's where the
bullshit.
downside to that. And it was kind of a creative
It's lazy
control
writing
that I
is
think,
what it is.
well, it's deciding on a bigger scale, which gave them the freedom to delay. I think is the excuse I'm giving them. It doesn't make for good storytelling in the sense that we had this really great build up to the Infinity Gauntlet and building all the way up to the literal end chapter being Endgame. All of that entire build up was fantastic, and our expectations were built up so high that anything after that became difficult to kind of match. And the impression I got was every time we started getting all of these episodic series, the occasional movie from time to time, which they had also admitted they were going to cut back on the amount of movies that they were producing every following year after that. They were getting a lot of backlash for, again, oversaturating the market with way too many Marvel movies. They were getting ambitious, and I get that. And they want to ride the wave while it's hot. And after Endgame, we were already at that point where it's like, okay, enough is enough. Give me a break,
Well,
and I think that's why
it was a good ending. It's like, I think it's where a lot of fans wanted to be like, okay, that's good. Now I can walk away from this and I'll be okay. Like, that, it doesn't matter what they do after this. But I mean, but also, with that kind of effect, like, give the fans a reason to show up, is what I'm trying to say here. I mean, there's not much that we really got out of it. Like, I'm one of the few people who probably like that Doctor Strange movie. I didn't mind the Spider-Man movie, but I have my problems with that movie. I have big problems with that movie. But like nothing really just like super wowed me. Like Secret Invasion was awful. Like that is not how you handle the Skrulls. That was so bad.
Well, that would have been another series that was. You reminded me of that too. I think that's why I wanted to touch upon mostly the episodic series. The movies themselves, like Multiverse of Madness, I was perfectly fine with. I really loved how they kind of did all of it, the whole thing, right up until the end. Even the ending was kind of nice, so that we had another potential Doctor
Strange.
Doctor Strange movie. Thank you. But
No, you're
the idea that
Dr.
they were
Doom because it's on your mind.
Yeah, well, it almost slipped. And with regards to Spider-Man, I don't think I'll ever kind of get disappointed because they don't tend to go too far overboard. And the whole multiverse thing, I knew why they were doing it because they were trying to open up to the proper introduction to the other series that they had obtained when they bought out Fox. So, the X-Men we just talked about, the Fantastic Four right around the corner. And then even building up to the Secret Wars, which was already kind of brought up more than once now. You mentioned Doctor Doom. That was, I think, the more recent development simply because of the
next two
change-up
Avengers
Kang the
movies.
Conqueror.
Yeah, next two Avengers movies are going to be Doctor Doom and Secret Wars.
Yeah, so we knew that all of that is coming on board. But before they could announce all of that, they kind of had to hold back a lot of their punches. They had to come up with filler. And I think that's where episodes like, Secret Invasion, some of it was interesting to watch because it had a different tone, and I actually don't mind Nick Fury as a character portrayed by Sam Jackson.
It's not bad. Just I found they've done that character dirty. Like, I mean, like Nick Fury, like, okay, Samuel Jackson as Nick Fury is awesome, but what have they done to that character? Like in The Winter Soldier, they're just like. And this is probably like the first time where like Marvel did something. I'm just like, why did they do that? That just ruins it. And like in Winter Soldier, he talks about how like a friend betrayed him, and that's how he lost his eye. And then it ends up just being like a throwaway gag in Captain Marvel when the cat scratches his eye out. Like how awful is that? And then everything they did to him in Secret Invasion, and then they killed off Maria Hill too. For what? Why do we do all this?
So we think. We're always left with the question of, is that truly what happened?
Well, it's the multiverse. She can kill anyone, so it doesn't fucking matter.
Well, that's another reason why when we talked about that, we know that there's always that opportunity to rewrite them back into story arcs. I think what they have really at their disposal, I think that would really be a great concept to tie into the multiverse concept is the What If series. If they took those episodes, which are absolutely phenomenal, I've never been disappointed with any of them. They have so much potential there to bring that into the live action MCU. I mean, I think that would get people hyped in their standalone stories on their own, and I think that would be a great idea.
I wish they would do the real What If stories, though. I don't like this Disney version of What If. This is like the MCU version of What If. I wish there was like, what if Wolverine fought Conan, and what if Spider-Man kept his galactic powers, and the stuff that you used to see in the real What If comics.
Right. Well, why would Conan be part of it anyway? Is he?
I don't know. Just make it happen. Do something cool,
careful.
Disney. Impress
different
me.
IPs coming in. Mind you, thinking of different IPs, I thought that was pretty funny that it was brought up in the Deadpool movie. Trying to bring that back a little bit too. I feel like that's one of the reasons why Deadpool came at a time when we were just on the last remnants of the multiverse. They even make jokes about it, obviously, in the film script. So, having said that, he, as a character, they kind of acknowledge the fact that they're now almost like the saviors of the Marvel universe because they kind of had to give it a bit of a jump start, Jesus. Yeah, they kind of had to give it a an electrical boost to the chest because but all of it I think was just absolutely necessary. So none of it was taken seriously, but it was just the right amount of serious to kind of go forward with these characters. I'm actually quite excited to see what they'll do with the X-Men going forward now, because if they do it right, even though they say they're going to have Hugh until he's 90, as the joke would say, I'm pretty sure they're going to find someone else to kind of take over for him.
Fox killed him off. Disney brought him back. They're going to make him do this till he's 90. Okay, so let's we are going to eventually talk about this movie, I swear, guys. But before we get into that, I just got to get your because the same weekend, because Marvel just wanted to hit it all out the park at the same weekend. They're like, let's ride this wave. Deadpool Wolverine's doing good in the theaters. Let's do this. They announced Robert Downey Jr. playing Doctor Doom. What are your thoughts on that?
That kind of had me a little bit worried. One, why couldn't you actually find talent that could
Bryan
properly
Cranston.
portray? Maybe.
That's what I would have
know
cast.
that. I know that there's a lot of other potential talent out there that could have done it justice that would be believable, but at the same time wouldn't be obvious. Let's be blunt about this too. Robert Downey Jr.'s got enough star power behind him that it makes sense from a deciding factor. But I mean, come on. There's boundless other actors out there that could have done the character in a different way. That if written right, what was the origin story of Doctor Doom? Where was he from again?
Latveria.
Latveria, thank you. I'm not saying you need to grab someone from Latveria, but
It's not a real place.
Well, no, I know, I get that. Good point. I'm just saying something that would be much more exotic, I guess, in terms of a character. I know actors are supposed to do that when they act, but RDJ had already portrayed Iron Man so beautifully.
Yes.
It's hard to see him as anything but that.
Right.
That's a downfall when you do that. However,
right. I don't know where they're going with this. Like, is he going to be a villain? They're going to turn him like I don't understand. Like, he's going to be a villain, obviously, but I mean, like, what are they going to do? They're going to change his mind at the end? Like, they're going to appeal to his, you know what I mean? Because I know what the comic story is, but I don't know what they're going to do.
Well, Ken, I'm glad you bring that up, because to me, that's where I was curious. I'm like, well, what if we take this story a step further? We know RDJ's portraying Dr. Doom, Victor Von Doom, and we know in the comics, one in particular comes to mind that's been brought up more than once was it the infamous Iron Man, where it's
one of there is
Tony Stark. Yeah, Tony Stark and Victor Von Doom, they swap minds.
Yes,
so they're in each other's bodies. So basically, Victor Von Doom is Iron Man as Tony Stark.
Absolutely.
And Tony Stark. So I don't know exactly what happens to the Doctor Doom character, but he takes on all of the negative aspects of the character because now he's the villain, even though the hero is in the body. Now that the villain has the hero's body, he can kind of get away with a bit more. And this is where I'm not familiar with the story arc in the comics itself.
Well, it's not
but
even that popular of a story. It's not really a prominent story. It's just something they decided to do because I think they're really worried. You know what I mean? Like, to get Robert Downey Jr. back into the mix, they're really worried. The fact that they got to make up this whole thing and pick out this weird, abstract Marvel story just to get Robert Downey Jr. back is doomed because their plans fell apart with Kang the Conqueror and none of their movies are working out the way they thought. Like, they're really... it kind of reeks of desperateness.
It's a lot of money being thrown around, and I think when it comes to the business aspect of making movies, part of me can kind of totally understand why they would bring in star power like RDJ. He's almost a guarantee that this would make money because we've seen how well he's done and been so beloved by, his fans as Tony Stark. So to have him cast as the villain now, and now he gets to do something quite different other than, playing the hero, that it could bring up something interesting. So I'm not complaining. I'm just concerned.
I don't want to totally take a crap on it because it could be awesome. I don't know, because RDJ is a phenomenal actor, but it's not really what I wanted to see. I would have just preferred to see Iron Man come back in Secret Wars as himself, like one of the there's Tony Stark. Here's a universe where he's still alive. You know what I mean? And that's your kind of like your return of Iron Man. That's what Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. to the MCU. That's what I would have preferred. I mean, obviously, like you said, it's the more obvious route to go, and maybe they still might do that. There still might be an Iron Man versus Doctor Doom, and they're both Robert Downey Jr. You know what I mean? It's just the gimmick to get people to go to the theater because they are it is kind of a gimmick. And I'm not saying it's a bad gimmick or it's hokey. I mean, it's a little, like people are kind of like scratching their heads, arching their eyebrows, looking at this. But it's like, think of it as like fans, think of it as like moviegoers who are not comic book fans like us. Mm-hmm. They're like, would they go see another Avengers movie if Robert Downey Jr. wasn't in it?
You know what? That question is still to be remain whether we need RDJ or not. I think we all know that since we've been building up to Secret Wars, since it's been announced and we know that build up to it, our expectations are already reasonably high. Because similar to that of Endgame where they had, everyone assemble when all the portals showed up, the same has to happen with regards to, the X-Men and the Fantastic Four and other Spider-Man characters themselves. Like, I'm assuming by then we're going to have, Venom and,
You'll have all the Spider-Man beside each other. You'll have all the Hulks beside each other. They'll get some sort of like CGI version of Lou Ferrigno in there. I guarantee it.
Oh, true. Actually, the other thing crossed my mind is, are they going to finally give us a Miles Morales character, or are they just going to bring in the...
You probably even see the Spider-Verse, the actual Spider-Verse version of that swinging beside them,
right.
I bet.
That's what I'm thinking too, right? Because the multiverse kind of... Yeah. Especially with the Multiverse of Madness, he went through so many different...
he went through a cartoon one.
...of realities. Yeah, he went through a cartoon world. So it wouldn't be unbelievable to see... the Into the Spider-Verse versions of those characters, like Miles Morales. Right. So yeah, there's so much built up to the idea of what Secret Wars is that when we got a glimpse of it here in this case, prior to the announcement anyway, because we already knew it was going to be announced. It was not that much of a shocker. But now that they've opened up the doors to, in other words, the what if characters, like all these potentials, I'm curious. It still has me excited in different ways, but we'll see how the build-up works, because right now we only got a small taste of it with regards to, Deadpool and Wolverine shared in this universe under these terms. So.
Right. Okay, so, and speaking of which, let's, I apologize, folks. There was a lot to unpack, It's been a while, too, that we've talked about a Marvel movie, so let's actually start analyzing this thing and start talking about the damn movie. All right, so we start off, and we're getting to the spoiler town, folks. We start off with... the MCU logo coming in, and they add a little part of like Deadpool into the logo, just like they do every character. and Deadpool basically singing along with the thing. Oh, that really hits. He's like, I know what you're thinking. How are we gonna not desecrate the legacy of Logan? And we're not. The answer is we're not. So right away, in classic Deadpool fashion kind of humor, he's digging up the body of Wolverine, of Logan. And he's like, I got news for you kids. That's not how mutant healing factor works. He's like, he's still alive. And he like pulls him out. He's like obviously dead. And then, man, I don't want to break down the whole movie. I probably could, though. The TVA show up, which are from the Loki series and the Time Variance Police, basically. And what does he do immediately? He says he's not going to use his weapons, so what does he do, Da Boo?
Well, I do want to correct one thing, though. Even prior to all of that, actually, my favorite part was the way he, in the credit scene, like with the Splash logo scene, he goes on to say how, I think he used the line, Disney is so stupid for giving him his own movie again. Like he literally used that line.
He said he was the last person who should have a movie. For some reason, they called me. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he goes on to say, well, it was a delay because of the whole, Disney buying out Fox, la 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 la, and then goes on to literally say the sentence, Disney is so stupid. So that was to me my favorite beginning of that whole thing. But yeah, when he's confronted with the TVA agents, he flat out tells them, I'm not alone. And I promise not to take out my weapons. But what does he do? He uses the bones.
Yes. They're
desecrated
like,
body.
Throw down your weapons. Like, I'm not giving you my weapons, but I promise not to use them.
Yeah, so he ends up breaking apart bones. He actually has the team up, as he said, to
right.
Logan's body.
What we're getting at is he uses Wolverine's body, his adamantium skeleton, to kill the TVA. The TVA, basically, police coming after him. What do you want to call them? Police? Guards? I don't know what the hell they are.
Well, I guess they're
TVA
agents.
guys. Anyways, and yeah, so he basically tears apart Logan's adamantium body because he literally digs him out of the spot where he was buried in Logan, and he kills all the TVA with Wolverine's adamantium bones. Now, what'd you think of that right off the hop as the beginning? And by the way, he's dancing to "Bye Bye Bye" by NSYNC.
Yeah, which apparently grew the fame of that all over again, apparently on the internet. I think it was a great start, to be honest, because the humor was just spot on. We didn't quite get the actual character team up that we were hoping for, but that's fine. We knew it had to start somewhere, and that was just a very interesting start. Right up to the point where, he puts on the two claws, and you get the shing, and the oh. Yeah, I'm so wet right now.
I'm soaking wet right now.
Yeah. So clearly, humor is just beautifully done. And then you pause right there because you're thinking, oh, great, we're going to get to see him with the claws. But nope, he's got to explain how he got to that point.
Yeah.
So.
And do you know the significance of him? And I don't think anyone has mentioned this in their Easter eggs yet. The significance of him dancing to NSYNC at the beginning. I think that song specifically.
Say that again, sorry?
Do you know the significance of why he's dancing to NSYNC at the beginning? Because I don't think anyone picked this up in their Easter eggs.
Well, I do remember that, if you go far back enough to is it the very first movie where Wolverine takes Cyclops' car with with Iceman and Rogue in the car, and he goes to turn on the radio.
You are absolutely correct, though. Yes, sir. Yeah, good job.
He blasts the radio.
In the second movie,
bye.
In the second movie, yes, Pyro, I believe, goes to turn on the radio because he says it's too quiet in the car, and for a brief millisecond, it's "Bye Bye Bye" by NSYNC.
Right. Okay. 'Cause I do remember that. It took me a while to kind of reflect on that, but yes, I do remember that.
So, yeah, and I don't think anyone's mentioned that in their Easter eggs, which I thought was really weird. All right, so, yeah, and then they basically kind of show, how Deadpool's been living his life over the past years, how he used the time thing that he got from, what are you calling it, that little time watch thing that he got from Cable, how he tried to join, basically jump multiverse and try to join the Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we get our first of many cameos, which is Jon Favreau as Happy Hogan.
Mm-hmm.
And what'd you think of this scene?
Well, I thought it was interesting to hear him say tongue in cheek the whole, where's the big man at? Does he not do this anymore? No, he's not into having these talks anymore. Or I think Deadpool went on to say, he doesn't do cameos anymore.
He doesn't do this anymore. What, cameos?
Yeah. So yeah, no, it was an interesting way to see him try to sneak into introducing himself and hopefully getting attention from the Avengers at a time that was critical, because they were just kind of building their team around that time, right? But they were also quite famous for having saved the planet, I think, from the very first invasion from the first Avengers movie. I think that was Loki's army that came in. So it was fantastic. I'll be honest. Seeing Jon Favreau play as Hogan again was kind of nice. A lot of Easter eggs in that little room that they were in too. It was quite awkward to see and funny, but to hear and see Deadpool going on about and just going to town on the midsection with the Hulk hands. Smash debate, thank you.
Yeah, just talking about how you take the green Hulk hands and you just ravage yourself.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious.
Okay, so and then we kind of see how his life is, and some of the characters from Deadpool 2 and obviously the first movie come back, because we still have Blind Al, we still got Vanessa, Pete is there, and what was his taxi driver friend? I want to get his name right. I don't want to say it wrong.
You know what? I can't recall for the life of me.
Anyways, that guy. For some reason, Shatterstar, he brought back Shatterstar. I thought he didn't like Shatterstar. What did he bring him back for? Remember, because Shatterstar should just be dead. He's the one that landed in the wood chipper, so he obviously went and saved him with that time watch thingamajig that he got from Cable in the second one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but he didn't like Shatterstar. Like, why did he save Shatterstar?
I couldn't say why. I had a couple of theories on that too, but I feel like out of all the characters that he could have saved, between him and Peter makes sense. Peter, he had to save Peter.
Well, Peter never died. He didn't. Nothing bad happened to him.
No, you're right.
He was one of the few that, because he showed up late or something, right? And he's like, "Where's the team?"
You're right. I forgot about that actually. If I had to guess, I think it's just due to the fact that he was the one character, Shatterstar. He might have been the only character that he had vocally said, he was kind of jealous of him, or he wasn't fond of him in some form. That's the whole reason for it, the joke.
He might have saved them all. Like, maybe he didn't just save him, and it just so happens that Shatterstar still hangs out with him or something.
Yeah, it's a good possibility.
He's such a D-list Marvel character, Shatterstar.
Yeah,
so funny. Okay, so carrying on, so finally the TVA arrived because they're kind of pissed off about what he did. And actually, no, that's not even the reason why they're grabbing him to begin with, because Paradox, who is I gotta say actually played very well by Matthew McFadden. I enjoyed his portrayal of a villain as opposed to the other villain, quite honestly. And basically, he's told him that what do they call it? What do they call the main timeline? The sacred timeline. They call it the sacred timeline. So he said the sacred timeline, they needed him for some purpose or something. And that's why, and he's like, okay, yeah, so he's like, great, so I'm Marvel Jesus, is what you're saying. Just rally up all my friends. They've been upgraded to disciple. He's like, I'll actually, kind of explains that his friends ain't coming with him. But when he gets there, you see all the TV screens with, Captain America and the Avengers, and of course, Deadpool. You think he would have, a lot more, in my opinion, I thought he would have, a lot more jokes, but he seems to be, very respectful of the Avengers. He really seems to look up to Captain America and Thor.
Yeah, you're right about that. It's funny you bring up Thor, because that one scene where it's like, oh no, you're not supposed to see that. That's in the near future. Why is he crying?
Right, which is going to be a payoff in one of the next two Avengers movies, I bet.
Oh, absolutely. We know that's foreshadowing of a different kind. No, I think it just goes to show you that they've written Deadpool into a scenario where he's now at a time in his life where he wants to matter, as it was said in the film, right? He needs to have meaning in life, and it was kind of instilled into his brain because of his girlfriend. And that woman, the love of his life, was the only one that would actually drive him forward. But then when he started to lose that drive because not a single group would take him on, X-Men or Avengers, or I'm sure there's others that he tried, he didn't feel like he fit in anymore, and then he just lost that his heart. And it wasn't enough to keep her around, so I think that's what drove them apart, which is why it's driving him to try and rewrite his own story. So in this case, obviously the TVA gives him that opportunity.
So, and because Paradox doesn't offer an option for him to save his friends, and also he was told that the anchor being of his world, which is apparently was died, he automatically assumes it's himself. Paradox laughs at him and says no, and it explains that it's Wolverine. It was actually Logan.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, because he can't accept that, he does. Obviously, I mean, you wouldn't leave your family and friends behind either. So he basically steals those little, whatever you call those things that they have in the TVA, those little pads that they have.
Tempad, I think.
Yeah, so he takes one of those to basically jump through the multiverse, and then we get our first, really, I mean, it's already been kind of fun at this point, but this part's one of the highlights of the movie easily, as he jumps through the multiverse and sees the different Wolverines, a lot of them from famous comic book stories that was so cool to finally see come to screen, like him wearing the eye patch, and the white tuxedo, and him and the Hulk went undercover. There was the Weapon X from the Age of Apocalypse, which is the one with the one hand that's in the post-apocalyptic world. There's one where
Apocalypse, I think.
Yeah, it's Age of Apocalypse.
Yeah.
And there's one where he's crucified on the X, just like on that cover, the classic X-Men cover.
Comic accurate Wolverine.
Yes, I was about to touch on that. As soon as he shows up, he's like, and this is where they kind of got to have some fun with some of those jokes, some of those things that people have been saying, right? Is like how Hugh Jackman is way too tall to be Wolverine.
And now we got to see what happens when you do make him comic accurate, and he becomes a little Wolvie.
Yeah, he's like a little short, which is hilarious. That's the first one he sees. And then it goes into the montage.
Yeah, part of me was kind of somewhat expecting to see Danny DeVito. I don't know why, but
Me too. But funny that you say that, because they paid off another internet thing that people were going on about, saying that, hey, if Hugh Jackman's not going to play Wolverine, then who's it end up being that he sees?
The one character we wish we still had in the DC universe playing Superman, which was Henry Cavill.
That's right.
We got the Cavill-reen.
And was there a pop at your theater when they saw Henry Cavill?
Ironically, no. Why, did you?
Yeah, there was a pop.
Okay. Yeah, that probably would have got me more excited too, but I think everyone was just in awe of the entire moment. I was probably the only one in theater that kept laughing at every stupid little moment because, well, that's just me in theaters.
There was a little bit of a pop from people when Henry Cavill showed his face. Because he even said it before he walked up. He's like, "You look like Henry," and he's like, "Holy," whatever curse he says there. He's like, "It's like, trust me, we would treat you a lot better than those shitbags down the street," or whatever he says.
Yep. Yeah, DC ruined it for themselves when they let go of that talent. So.
Yeah, and then anyway, so finally we get to we get to a Wolverine who's apparently, obviously, and this is something you got to keep in mind. This is not like the Wolverine from the X-Men movies or Logan. This is supposedly what they say is the worst Wolverine because of what he did in his world.
Yeah.
Which they kind of lightly touch upon. It's not actually really important, to be quite honest.
Well, it is only in one sense, right? Because his character is so devastated by the loss that he went through, but also with the level of guilt that he carries with him everywhere, that it makes his character be that much more vicious. Like when he goes after his kills, it's a killing blow every time. He doesn't hold back his punches. He purposely tries to maim or destroy, and it shows in the fights between him and Deadpool, right?
Well, that's actually a good way of putting it. I didn't think of it that way. So eventually they go back and to the TVA and they end up sending them to what the hell's that place called? It's in the Loki series, basically where they send all the variants that
Void?
the Void, that they try to prune from the multiverse.
Yeah.
And this, and then once again, more fun ensues because when we get there. Wait, I'm skipping a part here. They do their awesome fucking battle, which is like, let's give them what they paid for, which is what Deadpool says before they start the music to AC/DC, or start the battle to AC/DC, which is just classic MCU, like, great choice.
Yeah, what was the line that Deadpool says? Take out your secret socks there, nerds. It's about to get good. Yeah, no, that's actually, there was a lot of little things. It's the little details that you look forward to, right, when that whole fight. So, Wolverine charging at him on all fours like he would an animal.
Yes, he was more feral than he was typically in the other movies.
Yeah. There was the fact that Deadpool was spot on accurate with his, the precision cutting of his katanas, right? Like he what did he shrug his shoulder over to the side as he was being thrusted at with the claws from Wolverine, and then you get that 3D effect where the katana blade is coming straight at you, but he goes to catch it, and then goes right back at the fight. Like it was all extremely well choreographed.
Yeah, that's another great part of the movie, and it's like you could tell they spent a lot of time on it. They knew it was going to be one of the better parts of the movie because they just equipped the Hell's Bells AC/DC song to it, and it goes together so good right there.
Yep.
And then after... Go ahead.
Sorry, I just remembered that one line there. Little blade, right in the shoulder.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then not long after that battle, we get our next cameo in the movie, and kind of makes... They kind of, like, swerve you. They kind of troll you a little bit on this one.
They do, because they know how everyone's much more aware of the character that.
Okay, surely this one must have got a pop for you.
I think my theater was just way too quiet than it should have been. And I was in the theater 4 times and no one reacted to it, but I couldn't say. I think it's just my crowd wasn't really that into it.
I guess not. Because I remember when we went to go see Endgame, there was cheering. You remember that? But anyway,
it's funny that you bring this up, because I went there on premiere night, so like it came out on a Thursday for everyone. I actually got tickets with a friend on Thursday night, so like all of the really big fans were there that night. You would think they would actually come to these scenes, and they didn't. So
wow, okay, so it's Chris Evans, and they kind of make you think it's Captain America.
Especially with the color scheme when he goes to point, they're coming. So you get the red and the blue, on his sleeve. He does the whole superhero landing scene, so that added to that.
And he's like, he's gonna say it.
He's gonna say it, Avengers,
flame on. Say what?
What? Even prior to that, it was
the Human Torch version of Chris Evans. It's a Chris Evans version of Human Torch, I should say, which is from the 2000s Fantastic Four movie.
It would have been nice to actually see him fight some of those villains with his fire abilities too, but instead he goes after the one villain he shouldn't even have gone near, because that's his kryptonite. He deals with fire, and he was just giving fire to the fire controller, Pyro. I get it. It's supposed to immediately remove his ability, so he's no longer a threat, but.
Yeah, so apparently Pyro's more powerful than the Human Torch in this universe? That's fucking weird. Well, I don't know about that.
He's got control over fire, right? So Human Torch can create fire, Pyro can manipulate it a little differently. So
Human Torch can manipulate fire? What do you think he does? That's his whole gimmick.
Yeah, but Pyro is going to be the least likely person you're going to want to throw that at. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know, but he wouldn't... If it was the comics, Pyro would have not been able to suck off the fire off the Human Torch. I don't care what variant it is.
I guess.
But anyways, but whatever. Things are different when it comes to the movies, right? It's because it's kind of because just the way it is. It's like Chris Evans is more known as Captain America now, so him being the Human Torch is kind of like this meme. It's kind of like a joke, so they kind of made a joke out of it, right?
Yeah.
And then, so they eventually get taken from, and I forgot to mention, of course, Pyro, we just said it, and also Toad is there. Pyro is 100% the original actor. I don't think Toad is, though. I'm pretty sure that is not Ray Parker.
No,
it's not Ray Parker. What's his name, Ray Park? What do I call him Parker for? It's not Ray Park. Must be thinking about Peter Parker. And that's the same thing with the Sabretooth too, who looks like he's from the first movie. It's not the same. I don't think that's the same actor either, is it?
I don't know about Sabretooth. I know Toad is not the same actor.
He's definitely not. And so were some of the other ones I knew definitely were not. He definitely looks like the guy, though. Maybe it is the original actor for, say, the original Sabretooth.
It is possible. I just know that with so many prosthetics put on his face and such.
Yes, it's really hard to tell. And unfortunately, that fight doesn't even last. I'm like, come on, Wolverine versus Sabretooth, and he cuts his head off right away? Like, what?
Yep. Well, that's
I'm like,
why
all right.
Yeah, that's why I go back to my comment about Wolverine being the brutal version that he is, because it wasn't about this epic fight that Deadpool was kind of painting, right? You know, he gets told to shut the F up because he just wants to get it over and done with, right? You know, that's really, that makes sense to me, because Sabretooth is nowhere near as powerful as Wolverine,
He's
especially
powerful.
because of his adamantium.
He's serious. Well, Sabretooth has an adamantium skeleton too.
What? I don't remember that.
Pretty certain he does.
No, I'm pretty sure that's the difference between the two.
It's been a while. Let me take a look here.
Pretty sure Wolverine was the only one who went through the Weapon X program, with the exception of Deadpool, because that was afterwards.
1 second. I actually have to look this up.
Do a little fact check?
Yes. Before I sound like an idiot.
I will safely assume that he never had adamantium infused into him, because I'm pretty sure that's the reason why Wolverine was the only one that was approached. I don't think Sabretooth had the same healing factor as Logan did.
Yes, that's exactly, so I was right. He does also have the adamantium skeleton.
Then how did his head get chopped off?
Because it's movie Sabretooth. Just like how did like Juggernaut die so easily later on in the movie? Because it's movie Juggernaut. It's like the Fox X-Men versions of these characters, so they're not nearly as powerful as they were in the comics.
Yeah, the flawed variations.
They pretty much are. Like, we'll get to that in just a moment. So so they get taken by these Road Warrior Mad Max looking characters, which Ryan Reynolds makes a reference to. Which Deadpool makes a reference to, not only saying like, "Oh, that'd be what do you say? That'd be franchise infringement or IP infringement or something."
IP infringement, yeah.
Yeah. And then when Wolverine does cut off Sabretooth's head, he's like, "Here is the head of your Queen Furiosa." basically mentioning that they're like competing with that movie head to head in the theaters. Basically, I think that's what that reference is, right?
Possibly. I think the Furiosa movie had been in theaters already, and then Deadpool came out afterwards.
Right,
so,
but they weren't too far apart from each other. So I think they were kind of. I think that's what that comment was. What that pop reference was. Okay, so moving on. So Johnny Storm, played by Chris Evans, and Wolverine and Deadpool get taken by these Road Warrior-esque characters. One of them is driving the Fantastic car. from Fantastic Four. Trying to give you an idea that there's a lot of different variants of different characters and stuff that have been and gone and through this place. When they get there, there's basically the base of the villain is a dead giant man, or Ant-Man, if you will. Dead Scott Lang. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the joke that everyone saw in the trailer, which Deadpool says, "Oh, Paul Rudd's finally aged."
Yeah, because that man never ages, apparently.
Right.
He always looks the same at all ages.
And then the villain, I guess the main villain is shown, or is introduced. And at first, Deadpool thinks it's Charles Xavier, but it ends up being a variant, which is his twin sister, Cassandra Nova.
Yeah,
and
which was,
I gotta be honest, I wasn't crazy about this villain. I thought this was a very underwhelming villain for a Deadpool and Wolverine movie.
That would have been maybe one of my least favorite aspects of the film. The character and the actress who plays the character itself, I'm not too concerned of. I think it was because it was a very not so well known character. You know, you go to ask the average comic book reader or the fan of comics in general, of the Marvel comics, I don't think Cassandra Nova is very well known.
No, it's not. It's like one of these, once again, it's like a weird, just one-time thing that didn't go very far, just like, you know, Tony Stark, Dr. Doom switching his mind with Tony Stark. Okay, so, and then Deadpool gets Johnny Storm, Human Torch, and a little bit of hot water with Cassandra Nova. Did you want to comment on this part?
Oh. That was definitely a shocking moment, the whole snapping of the finger. So, more importantly, it was the fact that Deadpool throws him under the bus, telling her that, you know, Johnny was saying things about her that were, according to the audience, was never said.
Right, because we never saw that.
Yeah, so everything that Deadpool says, saying, you know, that, you know, called her out to be, I don't know the exact words, I could never say it verbatim. Well, mostly because of how colorful the words were used. But it turned out he was just so insulting about her that Johnny himself was just kind of dumbfounded. Like, I never said that. What are you talking about? Those words never left my lips. I don't even know what half those words mean. And then before the sentence, you know, or the conversation was done, she snaps a finger and all of his skin is peeled right off.
Yeah.
And you know he's still alive because he blinks once or twice before his body just crumbles down to nothing but bone and flesh.
Right.
Or bone and guts, I should say, because the flesh was removed.
So, I guess that's kind of how that character dies now? Like, is that...
Yeah, that you're saying goodbye to the Fox variation of Johnny Storm at this point.
Yeah, so what? We're not going to get to see Chris Evans, Human Torch team up with Chris Evans, Captain America in Secret Wars? Come on. Or is he just another variation? You know,
there's plenty of variants out there. Right. There's an infinite amount of universes.
Like I said, they can kill anyone off. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. The moment they did that whole multiverse thing and traveling through the variations of all the characters, they opened up all opportunities for themselves at that point.
All right, and then let's see, where are we? So I want to say some sort of battle ensues, and then Wolverine and Deadpool escape on what looks to be like a sentinel foot of some kind.
Yep. That was my understanding. I think people had theorized for a while before they figured out that it was a sentinel foot. Some people theorized that it was one of the legs from the in the first Iron Man movie, the Iron Man, the iron suit that the villain wears.
Oh, okay, the Ironmonger.
But in my opinion, it makes more sense. My brain went the same way yours did, which was it was the leg of a sentinel because it goes.
It's X-Men, and also Wolverine knew that he could project himself immediately with it, so he knew how to use it.
Exactly. That was my reasoning for it too, is that he seemed immediately familiar with what it was. So.
And then not long after this, they meet the first two of the Deadpool variants, which is Dogpool and Nicepool.
Yeah.
Any comments about those two?
I mean, I would like to say the dog is adorable. It is adorable, but in another way. It's apparently it was labeled as the ugliest dog in the world. Like it won an award for it, which is
I
why
see
he got
why.
casted as Dogpool. Nicepool was just, it was funny at the end, which we'll get to later. But I think it was due to the fact that it's like, oh, okay, well, Ryan Reynolds got another excuse to play himself, you know, in a Deadpool role, right, without all the prosthetics on his face, and the long flowing hair, I might add.
Well, yeah, he was like the opposite of what Deadpool actually was. Like, he's actually nice,
Yeah.
and his face isn't deformed, and he, like you said, he has the long hair, and
Yeah, even his suit was beautiful. Like it was.
yeah,
like,
I noticed
it was
his was
high-
shinier,
high
and it was like more
gloss.
like
Yeah.
armor looking compared to
Yeah.
compared to our Deadpools, I guess.
Yeah, the leather based suits that he wears in most of the other variations, including our prime Deadpool.
And then for some reason they got like a car advertisement in the middle of this movie, and then right, he like shits on the
Odyssey.
car, and then
Yeah,
later.
well, the Odyssey apparently got some really bad flack back in the day, so I think there's reasons for that.
Oh yeah. He like Ryan Reynolds did his best to make a good joke out of it, anyways. And yeah, so they end up having Wolverine and Deadpool end up having their second fight, where they beat the fuck out of each other in this car, and he's like I was wrong. The Honda Odyssey fucks hard, unlike you, Needle Dick. And he calls on Wolverine, and they fight some more to the tune of a Dolly Parton song.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't it a Dolly Parton song, I think? There's lots of love songs in this movie.
You know what? I wish I could remember the song it was specifically. You'd think I'd know it after seeing it 4 times. It might have been Dolly Parton. I can't recall.
It was the Honda Odyssey, right? I did get that right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No,
yeah.
I did mention the Honda Odyssey. Actually, my favorite joke before even that scene was, or one of my favorite jokes, because there's many good jokes. But just before they get into the vehicle, when they're offered the vehicle, and Wolverine's trying to get our Deadpool to get in the effing car, and then Nicepool turns to him and says, "But you're gonna have to give me back my dog." And then the whole, tries to run away with her,
Right,
but
yeah.
only maybe gets a foot or two away before he has to turn back. It's like, I'm sorry, darling, the corn was too thick, or something along those lines. That was by far one of my favorite moments.
I think there is a Dolly Parton song here, but the one they were actually fighting to in the car was from Grease. You're the one that I want. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Yes,
Yeah,
like I said,
that
a
sounds
lot of love songs in this movie. And then
Even the
eventually, go ahead.
Even the one prior to that, I think, actually, it's a damn cold night. I think that was Avril Lavigne. I think that they were listening in the car.
Was it? Oh, see, I didn't catch that one because I don't know that song. But
the moment
that
he
makes
had
sense
to leave
because
the
there's
dog
the
behind,
Canadian
and they
shout
play
out.
that song. Yeah, it was playing on the idea that Deadpool was sad because he had to leave his new love, the love for the dog, for Dogpool.
Yeah.
He was so in love with the dog that he felt bad for leaving it behind with Nicepool. That's why they played that song.
All right, and carrying on, after they're done their fights, they are driven to a location where they meet like a big collection of the rest of the cameos in this movie, or a good majority of the rest of the cameos in this movie, and some of the better ones that... Now, surely, tell me, some people reacted to these people showing up in the movie.
I know I did. I had goosebumps for one in particular. I don't know if you know the one I'm talking about.
I already know.
It's when, yeah, I think I know.
All right.
Because I legitimately, I think I might have done something along the lines of a gasp, or I must have said something along the lines of, "You effing kidding me?" Like I kind of wasn't surprised by it, but I was like,
I already
"Wow,
hear you saying
okay."
that.
But the physical effect, and I'm not joking, I literally got goosebumps, and I think it was the combination of him walking on scene and the music that just kind of kicked in. I was like, hell yes, make this happen,
Right. So the first one is Jennifer Garner as Elektra.
Yep.
And then the second one is Wesley Snipes as Blade. That's the one you're talking about.
Oh yeah, that was the one that got me shivers.
Some
Holy crap.
motherfuckers are still trying to upskate uphill. Trying to what did I say that right? Some motherfuckers
No.
are still trying to ice skate uphill. There we go. I said it. I said it in the late night ticket review too. I'm just like, what does that even mean? And he said it in this movie. It's great. And then a little bit of a surprise. I didn't expect this one. Channing Tatum as Gambit, which they were like teasing for before Fox was bought by Disney. That's one of the projects they were working on. They're going to do a Gambit movie with Channing Tatum.
Yeah.
So that was hilarious and cool. And I gotta say, he did a decent job, even though Deadpool made fun of his accent the whole time.
Well, for good reason. So, I mean, the Cajun accent is kind of difficult to pick up.
Right.
Even the Frenchman in me has a hard time kind of understanding a bit of the lingo. Apparently, Channing Tatum even went as far as to using a couple of lines that are very Cajun-based.
Yeah.
That only those who speak Cajun would understand what was said. So, yeah, good on Channing Tatum. I think that just proves that we could have had a really good Gambit movie, or at least a movie with the Gambit character involved.
He could have pulled the character off. That's what he proved.
Absolutely. You know? And we all know that for those of us who have watched the character, even if those of you who have had watched the X-Men 97 cartoon series, Gambit is by far one of the most powerful X-Men on the team.
Well, I don't know if he's not one of the most powerful X-Men. I wouldn't say that. He's actually pretty low-powered compared to the other ones.
You find? I feel like he's just underwritten. I just find that...
He's a great character.
He supercharges anything he touches, right? So there's a reason why I feel like he's always holding back his abilities. But
I mean, compare him to Xavier and Jean Grey and Cyclops and Wolverine. He's underpowered. And Storm, he's very underpowered compared to those five.
I know. When you single them out individually, I'm just saying that he is kind of a little bit more powerful than people give him credit for. But then again, I guess you could say that about just about all of them.
You could say that about all the Marvel characters. They're all more powerful than what people give them credit for. Like, a lot of times in the movies, they're very underpowered. It's actually funny because Iron Man is overpowered in the movies, but in like a lot of other characters, just completely underpowered. But yes, moving forward, and then finally the last one of this quartet is the one I was very happy to see return, which was Daphne Keane returning as X-23.
Yep. Yeah, and we kind of had a bit of a spoiler to that when we saw previews to her.
100%, but I was still happy to see her because I really, really enjoyed her portrayal as X-23. I thought she nailed it, and she was quite a young actress when she did that. And then when Disney bought Fox, I didn't think she was ever going to get a chance to play that character again. And I thought that was just a sad thing because her and Hugh Jackman also had good chemistry. So to see them bring them together again in these roles, I really, really enjoyed that. That's about this.
Yeah, I totally agree. That was one actress as well as a character that I really felt needed to come back. It seems like she might be coming back permanently too. So
I think so.
If they're smart about it, I think she should be considered to be part of the New Mutants. Is that what her character goes on to be? The part of the team.
Well, they don't even have the X-Men right now, so who knows what they're gonna do?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, and then so awesome to see all four of those people come back as they're the original actors who portrayed them, or not Channing Tatum. He never got a chance to play it. He even makes a comment saying that he's not even sure how he got there. He thinks he might have been born there.
Yeah, because he's never
had a movie
in the MCU. Yeah.
And then, so finally, they devise a plan to go and attack, like, Cassandra Nova and her crew, or attack that base so they can... Basically, what they're going to do, I can't remember... How the heck did they do this? What the heck was the plan? They were going to, like, block her out with Juggernaut's helmet, because once again, that's something that's in the comics. The reason why the helmet does protect Juggernaut from Xavier penetrating his thoughts.
Yeah, same as Cassandra's. So there's a reason for why he's probably kept on a leash, because he is technically an asset, but also a threat to her, I would think.
Yeah, but he's not Deadpool 2 Juggernaut, and he's not comic book Juggernaut. He's like X-Men 3 Juggernaut, but he's not the same actor.
No, you're right. The actor is not the same.
And same
if
with...
I'm not mistaken, I don't know if you knew this, though, but in terms of a cameo, the actor who played Juggernaut is the same actor who doubled as the Dude from Free Guy.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't
Like
know
that
that.
big hulking. Oh, you didn't? Oh, yeah. That's part of the reason why he came in on the set.
Okay, and then also they have is his name Azrael or Azazel? Nightcrawler's father, I think, the red version of Nightcrawler. Basically, they had him.
Right.
He's from First Class. They had like a lot of the old X-Men. A lot of the old villains from the old Fox movies and stuff. They had a version of the Russian from the Punisher movie, but it was not 100% not Kevin Nash, which you could tell immediately as soon as you saw him. And yeah, they had I think there was a Psylocke in there, and who am I missing out of the villains? They had
I think the Blob was one of them.
I didn't see the Blob. Callisto.
Yeah, he's
from
the Blob. He wasn't
X-Men
the
3.
obvious Blob, but it was the Blob. He was stationed at the top of the guard tower. He was. He's not as big of a blob. I'll just point it that way. But it was apparently admitted that he was the. It was the
He's
Blob.
supposed to be the Blob. Okay, I didn't really notice the Blob. All right. So, anyways, and then you get to see some of these heroes back in action again. Some of them killing some of the villains even, and Wolverine and Deadpool do their thing with Cassandra Nova. Eventually gets to the part where she opens a sling ring. She uses a sling ring, which apparently she got from one of the Doctor Strange variants that showed up there. And they jump through the. I know I'm skipping some stuff, but I mean it's kind of some of this stuff can be kind of polished over, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And they just jump in anytime you think I'm glossing something over. But they jump through the sling ring portal, the very classic, as Deadpool says, what do you say? Ooh, Marvel magic.
I think it was something like Marvel movie sparkles or
something like that.
Magic sparkles.
Yeah. And then this is where, and this movie's kind of all over the place a little bit. Not all over the place, but it's I think this is where they take on. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, I don't know if you noticed this little detail, but on the sling ring, did you notice that there was 2 Infinity Stones on it?
No, I did not notice that.
Yeah, there was. I think one of them was the Time Stone, and I think the other one was the Reality Stone. Is that the Reality, the pink one? But apparently, that variation of Doctor Strange had those 2 on his sling ring. I think that allowed him to teleport to other realities that he couldn't otherwise do.
Yeah, because the sling ring you can't do that normally.
No,
right?
He can teleport within his own reality, but I don't think he was able to go into old reality.
I don't think so. I don't know. So I'm probably wrong about that, but who knows? And then so this is funny. I'm reading IMDb, and Henry Cavill, his character is called the Cavalrine.
Yeah, I said that earlier. Oh, you never heard that term?
I didn't catch that. Oh, sorry, man.
That was the running term that everyone used on the internet when it became the Cavalrine was it was a coined phrase because it rolls off the tongue pretty easily, I guess. But that was when people kept having theories that when he was having talks with Marvel, what characters could he be portrayed at playing? And Wolverine was one of them, and I guess they just ran with Cavalrine at the time.
Okay, so moving on, this is where I think this is the part of the movie where they meet up with the Deadpool Corps. Right? Did I miss something?
You mean the Deadpool variants?
Yeah, that's what they are. They're the Deadpool Corps.
Yeah, or Deadpool Corps, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, and it is all the variants of Deadpool.
Yeah, just before that, we got our last visit with Dogpool and Nicepool.
Right. So they do meet up with them. And so the first one to come out is Lady Pool, which is played by, of course, the person who makes the most sense to play this role, Blake Lively.
Yep.
But you don't know that because she never takes her mask off. Also, one of the variants is a kind of a cowboy. He was voiced by Matthew McConaughey.
Yep. Okay, I was going to say, if you didn't know that, I was going to point that out.
Yeah, I knew you were going to point that out. That's why I had to say it. Plus, there was Head Pool and Kid Pool and a whole bunch of different weird variants of Deadpool.
Yeah, Kid Pool and Baby Pool apparently were played by Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively's actual kids.
Oh, really? Oh, well, that's perfect.
Yeah.
That's just
so the whole family's in it.
And so the Deadpool Corps comes to get Deadpool and Wolverine. Can't remember the reason why. And then this is where I don't even know what to say about this. Where we find out that Nice Pool doesn't have a healing factor.
Yeah, out of all the Deadpools, of course he's the one that didn't
Because
have
he's the opposite of him, right? So.
Yeah.
So what does Deadpool do?
Well, I mean, we saw it coming because it was foreshadowed that he was going to go after his gold-plated eagle pistoletas. And to get them, it was over his dead body.
Right,
Nice
that's what he said. That's like immediately the first thing he said, over my dead body. And they're like, okay, I know where this is going.
Yeah, as a viewer, you definitely knew what was going to happen. So he uses them as a body shield. So when Lady Pool takes out the Uzis and Headpool says to her, "It's Uzi time, baby," and then she repeats it, "It's Uzi time," and then they all just unload onto, Wolverine and Deadpool as they're rushing to the sidelines. Our Deadpool takes Nice Pool and uses them as a body shield. Gets riddled with bullets. And then later you find out, as you pointed out, that he admits, what healing factor? And then starts spitting out blood left and right.
And then I think this part, I don't know. I really like that part where he jumps through the multiverse and sees all the different Wolverines. But other than that scene, I think this one might be my favorite scene, is where finally Logan puts the mask on, puts the Wolverine mask on. And then and Deadpool just kill almost every single member of the Deadpool Corps, or at least they try to kill them because they're Deadpools. They have regenerative powers just like Deadpool. But yeah, just that whole, and that's where the Madonna song hits, Just Like a Prayer, and that whole scene up until where they jump out the window, out the back of the bus, is just so mwah.
Oh, I know. The dismount. All they're going to remember is this horrible dismount.
Like, I like the scene where it just follows them, slicing all of them up, killing every single one of them, and it's bloody too, and then they kind of stops as the Deadpools start pushing them back, and then after the Deadpools kind of like leave the scene, all of a sudden you start seeing like Deadpool body parts flying back into the scene as they push all the Deadpools back and they're slicing them up.
Wolverine on his own is pushing. Yeah, a throng of Deadpools are being pushed back by Wolverine, who's strong enough to just push them all. Actually, a couple of details I noticed too when it came to the reveal of the cowl. So Wolverine's cowl. That was another moment for me. I was kind of like, oh, finally. It kind of goes right up there with the line that Deadpool gave us at the beginning of the movie, which was like, it only took us 20 fucking years to get him to wear the outfit, right? The classic yellow and blue outfit.
Yeah. And he says, like, it's almost like he's not...
He's not embarrassed to be a superhero in a superhero movie.
He's not embarrassed to be in a superhero movie.
Yeah. But yeah, like the reveal of the cowl added to that. And once he put on the cowl, I don't know if you ever noticed, if you get a chance to rewatch it, his voice gets a little bit lower, almost like he's Batman. So, what, would you only take that out for special occasions? Oh, only when I'm ready to kill, or only for killing.
They make a comment about that later. He's like, it's pretty intimidating with the mask. It's a lot like Batman, except he can move his neck.
Yeah, they doubled down on the whole Batman thing. But the whole dismount thing I thought was absolutely, like you said, chef's kiss. Like this idea that they break through the window and you get that. You could freeze that frame.
Yes, well they do freeze that frame. It's like you would see it's like a comic book cover you would see.
Yeah, exactly. Pose and everything. So that was by far one of my favorites in terms of visuals in that one moment.
Visually, that was probably the best scene.
And then, of course, by then, all Deadpools have been killed off, with the exception of Baby Pool. Baby Pool's just sitting there laughing at them.
He's like, what are you laughing at, you little shit?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I guess these ones regenerate.
Talking to his own child that way now when you think about it, because that's his baby.
Right, that's actually funny that you mentioned that. I'm sure the kid just did the voice, right? Baby Pool looked pretty CG to me, so it's probably just the voice of the
absolutely.
kid, right?
Yeah. There's no doubt in my mind that the baby acted in any form or another, but they probably had him do, some recordings in front of a microphone.
I don't think Matthew McConaughey was in the outfit for that Western-looking Gunslinger Deadpool, I think he just did the voice, you know?
Oh, absolutely. I know that another one of those Deadpools. There's a whole bunch of those Deadpools that we could talk about in their own right, but apparently the Welsh soccer team,
Yes,
that
which is the
Ryan
soccer
Reynolds
team that he
owns.
partly owns.
Yeah,
What are they called?
I forget the name of the team,
Rexall, right?
but yeah, one of the players on the team, Wrexham. One of the players on the team is actually playing. They call him in the credits. They call him Welsh Pool.
Oh,
So, and he's got basically the team colors, and the emblem on his shoulder. That would be the soccer player who's actually underneath it.
okay, I didn't know that. All right, and then and then I mean they kind of then Peter comes and saves them, which is a weird thing because apparently every Deadpool has a Peter, and
Which
so I guess
which set up the
I guess that
fight.
makes him Peter Pool.
Peter Pool.
And then eventually they get back to the.
That leads to the next line that I always thought was pretty funny. I didn't catch on the first time.
Oh yeah,
Enjoy my Peter.
Enjoy my Peter. I only noticed that the last time I watched it too. All right, and then they get back to the TVA, and then more. And some stuff happens, and then they gotta like basically. So Nova is trying to. Cassandra Nova is trying to destroy all the universes so she can create her own universe or some shit like that.
I think she was trying to leave just the void. So all other universes would be unwritten, like disassembled, and then she would have nothing but the void. Meaning she would be the ruler of the one universe she already has under control.
Right. And, and then I guess Paradox tells Deadpool Wolverine the only way they could stop it is if they go into this room, I don't even know, break into these things and hold the two wires together and connect them, and somehow that'll reverse everything she's doing. I have no idea what the heck. They're just making shit up.
They kind of had to, because there's obviously no guideline as to what would be officially done at that point.
One of them, basically, it seems like one of them has to go in and do it, and only one of them is going to sacrifice themselves. So Wolverine decides to do it because there's nothing left in his world, because all the X-Men are dead, and it's all his fault. And he's feeling pretty shitty about it. And then Deadpool hits him with the fire extinguisher, ding, and then he goes in the door himself into the room and locks Wolverine out. Very Star Trek like.
Oh yeah.
He's like, "'Cause I'm Marvel Jesus, or I'm Spock, I'm not sure."
Yeah.
And so he goes to do it, and then of course he can't reach the other cable or pull the other cable out or whatever, and then you can kind of see it building up. You knew that Wolverine was going to be in there. Eventually, he breaks his way in and grabs onto Deadpool and uses his claws to connect to the other wire, thus connecting the two wires, which apparently does the whole reversal effect of what Cassandra Nova is doing. And it's supposed. Right. Oh yes, and it's also a self-sacrificing thing. I don't know if I mentioned that. So this would apparently be the end of, Wolverine and Deadpool as we know it.
There is a theory behind that, too, as to why they didn't actually break apart. It's only a fan theory, I think. But if Deadpool was physically capable of grabbing that cable on one end and in his other hand grab the other set of cables, he himself would have been unwritten. He would have been completely dissolved. He would have been atomized, I think was the term. But because it was two separate beings holding each a cable of their own, but completing the connection through them both, it didn't allow for the matter and antimatter to connect directly. It had to go through each of them individually before the connection occurred. So at least the running theory is that it is one of the reasons why they stayed alive, is because it wasn't just one being bringing those connections together, it was two separate beings bringing them together.
Okay. I thought it was just more or less because they had healing factor.
That was
it didn't
always
really hurt them.
Yeah, like we know that as viewers, but I think at the same time, it was kind of emphasized that no matter who did it, no matter how powerful you are, antimatter and matter coming together just obliterates itself in a scientific fashion if they were to try to get literal, I guess. So that was the theory I thought was pretty cool. That when someone said, well, it's because each of them grabbed a cable of their own and then created the connection by holding hands in the middle. That's the only reason why neither one of them had gotten written out of, and neither one of them had been atomized. So.
And then this is the opportunity for Wolverine's shirt to get ripped off, and he can show how he's huge, jacked, man.
Yep. Yeah, that's
still jacked.
Yeah, even at his age, he's still looking good.
And of course, they have to throw the jokes in there because why not? We've already had like 1,000 gay jokes in this thing anyway. So what's another one? You know. And then he walks out, and yeah, so they save they basically save their own universe, like they save the X-Men universe, I guess. See, this is where I get a little bit confused because they say, well, so they say, okay, so they say like Wolverine is his anchor for his universe, right?
Right. Well, Logan was the original Logan.
Yeah, the original Logan. But to me, I wasn't even certain if like Deadpool was in the same universe as the original X-Men in the Fox movies. Because every time they did like a new X-Men movie, everything was different anyways. Like I wasn't even sure if any of those movies connected, like the way they were set up. Some of them.
Well, they weren't officially connected, and I say that because it was always the running joke that he would always break the fourth wall, right? So we, as viewers, we would always assume that they weren't in the same universe, but he always acknowledged them because, well, he's self-aware. He knows he's a movie character.
Yeah, he knows, and he would always go see the X-Men, or at least team up with Colossus and go to the X-Men mansion. And even when he went in second Deadpool, it seemed like it was the X-Men from X-Men Apocalypse, that version of the X-Men. So it's like, so I never was 100% sure. Well, like if he was in the same universe as all or even if the universe was same anyways, because in Days of Future Past, they basically destroy their own timeline and redo it.
Yep.
So so I don't know what X-Men universe, like that whole universe was a mess to begin with. So it's really hard to say. So I wasn't even sure. So like to me, I'm just like, did they save the X-Men universe, or did they just save like the one that Deadpool's in? You know what I mean? Or is it all the same one?
That's an even better question. I think this is where we're going to probably see the remnants of that, like the after effects of that, going into the next several movies, where they probably will bring in officially the X-Men into the MCU.
Right, so they save some sort of universe that Deadpool can live in. We know it's the one that Deadpool was a part of, but we don't know 100% if it was the original X-Men universe in those Fox movies.
Mm-hmm. At this point, though, does it really matter? Because
I guess not, but I mean, it's...
The whole multiverse thing is still going to cross them over anyway.
I guess not. I don't know. And then, so where are we here? So I guess that's all I wanted to say. Like they fixed they created like a universe basically where the X-Men characters can use, because whatever they did fixed everything. It really, I mean, the real reasoning for it, and even at the end of the movie, things are just loosely explained and not really explained very well, quite honestly. Like, I mean, for instance, the woman running the TVA that's in the Loki series, just for some reason, just agrees with everything that Peter says, just because she thinks he looks damn fine in that suit, which is like, all right.
Yeah, she's falling in love with Peter. I thought that was hilarious. It's like, that wasn't expected.
Yeah, very, especially considering the hard character she plays in the Loki series. Like, that was very, like, a different, like, it almost seems like out of character for her.
Mm-hmm. That's fine. I think they do. Obviously, they write that in on purpose to make Peter stand out even more. Peter's such a simple character that he shouldn't stand out the way he does, but apparently he's just that much more of a special character than we give him credit.
He's taken over as his sidekick, basically.
Yeah. Even the other villain, what's his name?
Paradox.
Thank you. Paradox even makes the comment, with that long pause in between. What the heck is going on here?
Exactly. And it's just like the only thing you can really say is like, it's a Deadpool movie, I guess. So you just like shrug and accept it, right?
Yeah.
But so now the TVA just doesn't have a problem with the X-Men universe existing alongside the sacred timeline, which is the MCU universe. Seemingly so.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean,
That's
I
the way
know
I
they're
took
all
it.
coming together when they do Secret Wars anyways,
Hmm.
but it's like, I don't know, it's just weird.
I mean, we definitely know that there's it's been acknowledged that he's now in the same universe as the Avengers because obviously they exist in his world now. So
Yeah, but so
I
they're
guess we'll
still going
find
to
out.
live in their X-Men universe separate from the MCU universe, but obviously it's just going to be obviously the crossover is coming again. Like Secret Wars isn't that far away, honestly.
Right.
All
Is
right,
that,
so holy moly. Oh wait. We're not quite done yet. So they bring back X-23, so clearly they brought back Blade and Elektra and Gambit. That's obvious when you see X-23 hanging out with Wolverine and the rest of them at the end, Deadpool and all his friends. Seems like Wolverine is just cool to hang out with Deadpool now, even though he hated him throughout the whole movie.
yeah. He actually has a new family to be next to. I guess that's probably the
Right.
reasoning why he now has a
He has a
meaning
daughter.
to
He has this daughter that he didn't have before, which was kind of like the
yeah.
same thing that happened to Logan, where he's like, he had this quote unquote daughter, even though she was like created in a lab, basically, but it's still like his DNA. So
Yeah. Yeah,
So he's
definitely.
kind of got this, and that they could really, like, sincerely, I would go watch a Wolverine and X-23 movie, like just them two. That'd be so good.
I'd say yes to that too. Yeah, but now that they've actually because when Logan ended, that was officially that variation of Logan that I think that would have been the one I
That's
would have
the
loved to.
end of the Fox X-Men Wolverine
Yeah,
character. This is
very much.
this is the Disney MCU version of the Hugh Jackman Wolverine character.
Yeah, but I agree. I'd watch that movie too, and Wolverine and X-23 film.
All right,
But at my
this is fucking long, but we gotta. Okay, so let's review this damn thing. So you know the drill. Out of 5 stars, tell me how you got there. Or sorry, what are we doing? Best and worst first? I'm all backwards. What are we doing?
honestly, that's entirely up to you. I feel like if I were to say the best, in my honest opinion, is the blend of the Fox universe that we've acknowledged and had accepted with all the humor and the gore and the violence, all of it. And how they've blended it nicely into the MCU, how they've accepted and embraced the simple fact that the character could not be watered down. To me, just encompassing all of that, I feel that's my favorite element of the entire movie because that was a running concern for me. To be more specific, I think it was the level of action, which specifically was choreographed between Deadpool and Wolverine, showing their true violent natures and how it translates into a very beautifully choreographed fight scene every single time. To me, that was my favorite element of the movie. But trying to generalize, I think the fact that they actually allowed that closest version of a rated R movie to us in the MCU is a great idea. Should I give my least favorite?
Do it.
See, that's where it gets a little trickier. Um, You know what? I think I will say it. I think my least favorite might have been the lack of weight that the villain carried, the main villain, Cassandra Nova. She does turn out to be a much more powerful villain than you think, but because they kind of had to humanize her to be able to pull back her punch a little bit when, Wolverine played the X-Men role, saying that, Charles would not want me to do this to you and let you die and bleed in front of me when I could have done something. If it wasn't for that whole, reenactment of Wolverine truly becoming an X-Man officially, her character could have been by far much more vicious. But it turned out she was just kind of held back a bit, and I
Like,
wasn't too fond of that.
imagine if that was like a Magneto instead.
Yeah, because that's a great example of that because we all know Magneto when he's in his true prime can be devastating, and he'd be very difficult to kind of hold back.
Yeah, I thought
But
that was
yeah,
kind of a missed opportunity with the main villain there, and Magneto could have been a better choice, and you could have got obviously Ian McKellen wouldn't be able to do it again, but you could still get what's his name?
the one from First Class there, Michael Fassbender.
Thank you. You still get him to
Yeah,
do it, maybe convince him to do it, but even just like as far as like Sorry, I don't want to step on your line here. So that's everything you got to say about the least favorite?
I would, yeah, because I mean, I have very little to pick away from overall the movie because there was so much good that there was so little that was considered bad. And it's not that Cassandra Nova's bad; it was just that it was one of the weaker elements of the movie that I couldn't really fully accept.
Okay, and I'm going to get into my best and worst, and I'm probably going to say quite a bit, so I apologize because we've already said a lot already. So, the best is just seeing Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds together on screen playing these beloved characters that I've always wanted to see them play together because Deadpool and Wolverine were so... the one went hand in hand in the comics. Like, you almost couldn't even talk about Deadpool without talking about Wolverine. They're pretty... I mean, Deadpool is highly influenced from... Well, not only is he a total ripoff of Deathstroke, but he's also heavily influenced from Wolverine. And also shout out to Rob Liefeld in that what was it, a shoe store? Just Feet? That was a funny gag.
Yeah, that was, and that's a hard one unless you're not familiar with.
Liefeld's bad at drawing. The internet criticizes Liefeld for drawing bad feet, so that was the joke on that. On that Easter egg. It's behind them when they're walking towards the Deadpool core when the Madonna song's playing, Like a Prayer.
Yeah.
So anyway, as I was saying, so just seeing them together was definitely my favorite thing about the movie, and also like all the stuff that they paid off and all the different cameos. Like, this is the kind of stuff I go and see Marvel movies for. Like, this is why I go see Marvel movies. Like, get me excited. Like, you know, I'm a fan. Like, don't give me D-list characters in miniseries that I don't give two shits about. Like, I don't care about that. Give me the main heroes that we want. Give us the X-Men. Give us the Avengers. Give us the main characters that we all love. Don't dick around these little D-list, E-list characters that no one gives two craps about. Give us what we want. It's been 4 fucking years. You've had the fucking X-Men fucking thing for I don't even know how long, Disney. It took you this fucking long? Come on. So finally, you get to see this on the screen. So great. I've already been through hell and back in my whole life before I got to see this movie, and it should have happened a lot sooner. So that's my favorite thing. All of the nods to the comics, just seeing those characters together and seeing those actors together, because they're awesome. And like I said, all of the promotional material of them building up to the movie, they did so much good stuff to promote this movie. It was just enjoyable seeing them two together because they had such good chemistry. That's my favorite thing. And also, the other thing, it kind of gave me hope for the Marvel Universe again. My least favorite thing. So, this movie doesn't have a story. Like, you know? They just kind of like jump from one multi-dimensional place to another, and there's not really like a story. It's just like they took like what happened in real life and they turned it into some weird multi-cross-dimensional road trip with Wolverine and Deadpool. So it's like I mean, Deadpool, he makes fun of the multiverse. He said, "Aren't we done? It's not working." Like, he was right. It's not working. The multiverse stuff sucks. So it's like, and also because of that, I feel like this Deadpool movie, don't get me wrong, I liked a lot of jokes in this movie, and I like this movie quite a bit. But I'm not even 100% sure if I like it more than, like, say, Deadpool 2, which kind of just had me rolling with the jokes. Like, there was just, like, one zinger after another. And I'm not saying that this didn't have a lot of zingers. It did. But I just found myself laughing at those other Deadpool movies than I did this one. This one was just more of the thrill of seeing Wolverine and Deadpool together and seeing all this stuff get paid off and seeing the old actors come back and play these heroes that they play in the past. That's really the excitement here for me. But yeah, so I mean, it feels in some way this Deadpool movie does feel like it has its Disney's little grubby fingers all over it. Because yes, they did, you say that they didn't hold back, and I say like a lot of parts it did seem like didn't hold back, but I think in some parts they may have held back. There was kind of some things I kind of expected them more to do, and they didn't really lean into that way. I thought they would, or at least the way I hoped they would, but that's definitely an effect of like Deadpool joining the Disney Marvel universe. Like, to me, I think if it was Deadpool in the comics, he wouldn't be as respectful to, like, Captain America or Thor or anything like that, but whatever. This is a different version of Deadpool because this is the one who has to team with the Avengers when they get the Secret Wars later. So I understand that. But like I said, I still felt like Disney had its grubby fingers on it. There's very slight things that I could pick out, but even then I couldn't even really protest about them because it's there's so little and so minuscule that it's not even worth mentioning. And like you said, and also I did not like Cassandra Nova as the villain, and I felt that was one of these things where Disney has their grubby little fingers all over it. It's like, we didn't need to have this character here. I didn't think she was very good. Also, she was way too powerful. That was another thing. It's like they made her like this all-powerful being where it got to the point where they had to, like, I don't know, put a plot hole in this movie, because to me, she should have just been able to kill Wolverine and Deadpool, like, and yeah, she could have, but there wasn't even a good reason as to why she didn't. Because even after, like, Wolverine said what he said to her about Charles would have wanted me to save you, like, that doesn't make her be like, oh, my brother. No, she's still like, oh, that's nice that he loved you because he didn't love me, so she was still pissed off. Why wouldn't she just fucking tear their skin off right there? So that's what I mean. You have to make, like, this plot hole in the movie to make her work, where it's not like, okay, why couldn't she just kill them at any time? Or why didn't she just kill them at any time? She's that powerful. So that's what I mean. You could have had a different villain here, a villain that people would have preferred to see, someone that was more popular. Like you said, not many comic book readers know of this character. I didn't even know about this character until they introduced her, and I'm like, oh, well, this is kind of crap. You know, it's like, there could have been Magneto. It could have been fucking, like, I mean, even Sabretooth. You know, like a prime version of Sabretooth. I mean, there's lots of, like, Wolverine and Deadpool villains. Omega Red. There could have been lots of different ones that they could have put in here to take that place as the main villain. And I don't think Cassandra Nova was the right choice for that. And I'm not going to... It has nothing to do with the actress or anything like that. I just don't think the character was a very solid character.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my favorite and least favorite. So why don't you break it down and tell me where you're at with the 5-star review.
So I'm kind of teetering between a 4 and a 4 and a 4.5 out of 5. I think it's just because there was so much more good than there was bad that I couldn't really complain, especially after having seen it 4 times. I've been able to nitpick at little details that much more and then pull out even more Easter eggs and things like that out of it. I will always go as far as to say that they could have gotten a little bit more violent with it if they wanted to, but it didn't leave me so dissatisfied that I didn't enjoy the movie for what it was. And given that Cassandra Nova is not to say that she's not a character to take lightly either, from what I could gather, she is quite powerful. And I agree with you, she could have been handled in a different form. But we also understand that they're trying to write them into a story arc that would be easy to carry on to the next stages going forward with these two, with Wolverine and Deadpool. So I think I'm going to lean more heavily on 4.5. It's... the Cassandra Nova character doesn't leave a horrible taste in my mouth so much so that I need to kind of really be so upset that I give it a full point out of the 5. So I think it did a great job. I honestly, I'm really happy and satisfied with what they've done, and has me excited to see what's coming forward.
Right. And I'm gonna go with a 4. And it's mostly for the reasons that I said. It was definitely enjoyable, and it was great to see a Marvel movie again, and something you can be excited about. And to your point, what did you just say? Yeah, there's been a lot of movies I haven't liked in the last 4 years, I gotta say. Hollywood has been doing a really shitty fucking job at making movies the last 4 fucking years. Their writing has been terrible and just full of crap that nobody wants. So this is a step in the right direction. And like I said, I still kind of feel Disney's grubby little fingers on it, but at least this is, at least they didn't botch this. At least this was still, I still walked away saying, okay, that was enjoyable. That was good. Like, there wasn't anything that offended me so much that I was like, goddamn Disney, come on, stop it. No, I wasn't saying that this time. This time I was like, okay, good, yes. And like you said, had me excited to see what they might do with the future.
Absolutely.
Okay, so finally we got there, folks. It took us a while. You'll have to forgive us. I mean, I think it's been a while since me and Da Boo got to actually sit down one-on-one and just talk about movies, so I think that's what this was more about. That's why this is probably like a 2-hour runtime or something. I'm probably going to have to trim this or something. But let us know what you think of Deadpool and Wolverine in the comments. And, we really appreciate if you do. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us a share, all the good stuff. And, like I said, you can let us know what you think about the movie. And we might take a look at it. We might not. But as always, we promise nothing. Good night.
Good night, everyone.